What's up guys, xHOUNDISHx here, and today we have some stuff to talk about in terms of Destiny and what's going to happen moving forward this year, as well as a few little updates and things that have surfaced online over the past few days. Of course, over the past few weeks, we've seen our fair share of leaks. I say that with inverted commas, or what are very likely to be fake pieces of information, but we've also seen some lesser spoken about legitimate words from Bungie in one form or another, which can help us picture where the team is at in terms of planning for the short-term future of the game. So firstly, The Express, which is a British newspaper of all things, posted an article with some words from a Bungie spokesperson about the dawning and future plans for live events in the game, and this went up on the 2nd of January, which is a good few days ago, and hasn't really surfaced that heavily, probably because of the unusual source itself, but also because of the lack of clarity in what's said inside of the post. So the article is named Destiny Update, Bungie talks Crimson Days as the dawning end time draws near. So the writer goes over the dawning event and its closing few days, and the expectation amongst players that we'll see a February event based around the Crimson Days event that we saw last year. The writer Liam Martin said, unfortunately however, when asked whether Crimson Days would be returning in February, a Bungie spokesperson told Express Online that there were no guarantees beyond the conclusion of the dawning in January. So what does this mean exactly? Well, it's not unlike Bungie to put this kind of response out there. Does this mean that there will be no Crimson Days event or future events in 2017 at all? Well, that strikes me as very unlikely, even in the case of the February event, as we know Bungie are very tight-lipped about what they're working on until it's at a stage where they know they can push that content live, so for a journalist to push for some kind of news from Bungie at this stage, as you can imagine, they aren't very likely to get much info in the response. Also, if we backtrack to the final Bungie blog post of 2017, Deej said, "Until we talk again, work will continue at Bungie. It always does. Destiny is never finished, and we have playtests of new content to share with each other." So this could of course include things like Crimson Days or indeed some other content drop. Crimson Days is remembered as one of the more lackluster events in the game, and assuming that the dawning is a new benchmark in terms of quality, then it could take a fair amount of work and time before Bungie were ready to release or even replace this event with something else. But nonetheless, I'm sure the live team are cooking something up right now for the game, so I wanted to cover this piece of information anyway guys, and try to settle any concerns players may have when reading this, because it's simply too early to draw any conclusions yet. Moving on though, there was a supposed leak on Reddit from a user called Inside Leaker, which is a terrible giveaway, claiming to be in close contact with a Bungie employee working on Destiny 2. Before we break this down, it's worth saying that this is almost certainly fake. Even though the content of the post isn't entirely bonkers, it's simply very unlikely that this info is true at this point, plus the name is positively cheesy to say the least, so I guess I would take this with not only a grain of salt, but a rather sizable bag of salt, the kind of salt that you might find in a Crucible match for example. Nonetheless, let's take a look. So this information supposedly came from a Bungie employee. So he claims that firstly, they are not completely rebooting our characters. My source described it as a clean slate, but not a full wipe. Apparently our Guardian will still retain their memories and accomplishments up to this point, but we will not carry over any gear or weapons or things like that. There will be 3 new subclasses on release. The current existing subclasses will be reworked, including new abilities, perks, and visual effects. The game may face a delay into Q1 of 2018. The source hinted that they're having issues with the new engine that they're using, and possibly some hangups regarding narration or staff. The game will be 60 frames a second. They cited technical limitations and not aesthetics as the reason for it being missing in Destiny 1. Powers of the Darkness will be introduced into gameplay. The source didn't describe what this means. Raids will be bigger, longer, and much more interesting in terms of mechanics moving forward, and ships will no longer be cosmetic only, but no further details were given. They're implementing some kind of transmogrification feature, which is where you can take perks and abilities from one piece of gear and move it to another piece of gear, which is interesting. The game will absolutely come to PC. There's a UI overhaul with more customization features. Eververse will not be as prominent as it is now. I find that unlikely. Xur will play a new role in the overarching story. The Speaker will be a central part of the main storyline, and new non-Guardian races will be introduced. So there are some very interesting things right there. Of course, it's not beyond the imagination of either the person who's written the post or the imagination of the community over the past few months, who have suggested many of these things, or they have even been hinted at in other, posts by people like Jason Schreier from Kotaku. So either way, interesting, but very likely fake. Finally, some cool concept work surfaced of the missing Dubious Volley rocket launcher, which was removed from the Taken King. So Travis Brady, an ex-Bungie employee who now works at Highwire Games, uploaded some 3D model images of the launcher, presumably from the concept stages, and here they are. It's a very cool weapon, the perks of which resurfaced in the armory during the Rise of Iron update, but where is it? Well, we simply don't know if this exotic will make it into the game or not. Interestingly, the weapon wielded by Kovic in the Wretched Eye Strike bears a strong resemblance to the Dubious Volley, but instead is modified with the eye of an ogre. So could this exotic relate, or at least have been intended to relate to Kovic in some way? Well, that's a possibility, but for now we'll have to wait and see. Perhaps we'll see this weapon surface in an update over the next few months, but there you go guys, just a quick breakdown of a few conversations and bits of information popping up surrounding Destiny in the vast jungle of the internet. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video though. Let me know down below, what are your thoughts? Will we see a Crimson Days event? Do you think they could replace it with something else? Do you think the supposed leaks are indeed fake? It'd be interesting to read your comments below, but if you're new to the channel, consider hitting subscribe to keep up to date if you enjoy the content. For now though, thanks a lot for watching and have an awesome day.